that the only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
Man holds in his mortal hands the power to abolish all forms of human poverty and all forms of human life.
This nation will rise up, and we as a people will get to the promised land.
Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for you are with me.
Give me serenity to deal with this life, like standing in a dark tunnel where there's no light, like living in the bottom of a pit.
The bottom of the
It's
pit.
like living in the bottom of a pit.
The bottom of the pit.
I will never quit, I'll go the distance. Hard work pays off, you're on my witness. Like living in the bottom of a pit.
The bottom of the
It's
pit.
like living in the bottom of a pit.
The
Welcome to the Now or Never show. I am your host, Kimberly Trapani. It is my pleasure to introduce Jason, a guitarist and the redheaded, straight-laced man I remember from Catholic schools that was a very nice child. Welcome, Jason, to the show.
Thank you very much. And thank you for having me, Kim.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It's been about 20 years, but I remember you walking around the halls. You were straight-laced. You were in your plaid uniform. What do you remember about Catholic schools?
Well, I mean, you know, to me, it was school. I didn't really know what public school was like at all. And I loved Catholic High very much. I really had a great group of friends. We had a very tight class. You know, straight-laced, I don't know, but it was definitely a lot of fun, and it definitely, I think, kind of resembles the American high school experience. You know, going to football games, you know, dances, dates, parties, the whole nine.
Yeah, we grew up and we had a very nice upbringing. Tell me about how you grew up in Cohoes, New York, and what you learned from Catholic Central.
In Cohoes, in Cohoes, I went to Catholic school as well, from a place called St. Mary's to St. Agnes. Very much involved in sports. Great family. You know, my family, of course, owned one of the larger independent businesses in the business district. And, you know, that too is something that I've been thinking about recently. It's like the drugstore is almost like another member of our family, or was. It was very much, you almost talked about it like it was a mom or a dad, or it almost was its own entity, you know? So we had that we were fortunate to have that family business kind of thing going on that I believe did kind of tighten the bonds within our family.
Absolutely. And the pharmacy is a nice pharmacy. Your family had treated me for a chronic illness I had a few years back. It's always amazing to have a pharmacy around, and your family also has a funeral home, correct?
Yeah, actually, I was active in the funeral home for a while when I first got out of it, because I went to go be a funeral director first. But then I decided at that age, I was about 21, 22, that it was just, it needed to be a special type of person for that. And while my intentions were good, my maturity just wasn't there at that age. I still wanted to, you know, just kind of have my freedom. When you're a funeral director, or at least back then, you were tied to a beeper, you know, you were on call 24/7. So there was a lot to it. And subsequently, I wound up going back to school and getting my bachelor's in math with a minor in biology.
That's awesome. And I pride myself, I tell people to keep getting their education, regardless of what Congress tells them. Can you tell me about what valuable lessons you've learned over the years, whether it's from school or from your upbringing?
You know, I'm constantly learning about myself. I mean, you know, even at age, actually, this last year has been like an eye-opening experience. But, you know, I would definitely say that my values come from not only the family business, but also from Catholicism. We were very much a service oriented business. Um, I don't joke when I say I've been working since I was 5 years old, and
Yeah.
it would be nothing, on a Sunday for Mr. Domel to come in, or whoever to come into the drugstore, and I'd be like, "Hey, how you doing?" So it really kind of, people, like, to say that I'm an extrovert is an understatement. And I think a lot of that came from the fact that, yeah, I was always kind of there at the drugstore, socializing with customers and trying to help them as best I could, much the same way that my mom and the rest of my family have.
Tell me about your Irish Catholic upbringing. You were always quiet when I remember when going to elementary school and high school, and you were so straight laced. Tell me about your Irish Catholic upbringing, what we don't know
You
about
know,
Jason.
I don't think you knew me very well. I don't think you knew me very well. I will say this, that my parents were very much Catholic, regardless of their nationality. My father was definitely very much what you would call a conservative Democrat and an Irish Catholic. And there was no messing around. Like, we were at church, usually 10 to 15 minutes early, all, kind of dressed appropriately. My mom, very much, God, she was a very powerful, she was a hard footing woman. She kind of took over the drugstore in like 71 when my grandfather died, and was kind of like that first batch of women, not only in the workplace, but she was running her own business. So she faced a lot of challenges, and she was also very, very active in the community. I've heard people over the years say how, so and so is the biggest cheerleader for Cohoes, and I know damn well who the biggest cheerleader for Cohoes is, and that's my mom.
Absolutely. And that's wonderful that you have a special relationship with your mom. And I really know that we had values instilled in us with going to Catholic school, and we grew up simply to appreciate the simple things in life. We weren't fluffy, luxurious, flaunty people at all. And can you tell me some takeaways that you have from growing up where you did, and what you appreciated the most about your family and what
Well,
you
Cohoes it wasn't at that time was in a very interesting place. Um, a lot of people seem to kind of had the assumption that my family was rich. We were not rich at all. The pharmacy was successful. My dad did well, but we were, I would say, middle income, maybe a little bit higher than that, but not much. Whereas a lot of my friends, they would be coming from, uh, a divorced home, where the parents were divorced and it was nasty, or maybe the father was kind of uh, lost his job and whatever. So we were kind of fortunate in that we never had to really want for anything, as far as anything material. And, we were definitely provided with great childhoods as well. Um, there was something else he asked towards the end. I just kind of spaced on it.
takeaways from your childhood that may have been you've gotten from living so simply in a simple small town with when we had morals and values instilled in us, we genuflected in the pew, we said thank you, yes ma'am, no ma'am, please, and thank
Yeah.
you, those things that we learned when we were children. What may you have taken away from that
Well,
a
I mean,
silver spoon person wouldn't have taken away?
well, first of all, too, I know in my family, we worked hard. We worked very, very hard. If it wasn't at the drugstore, oh, there's my thumb was on there the whole time. If it wasn't at the drugstore, we were working around the house, and we were weeding gardens, we were doing yard work, we were cleaning, various rooms. My mom was very, very adamant about the place being kept clean, and us doing what we want. I mean, us doing exactly what we're told. The other thing that was really, really impressed upon all of us was to get an education and do well in school. There was no messing around with that. So those are definitely some of the values, but I would say most and foremost is the notion of service. And this is something that I've kind of really kind of been focusing on this last year, is that identifying that value of servicing others and helping others is really important to me. That to me is like one of the best buzzes out there, you know? So definitely the pharmacy and working at the pharmacy, and also being my mom's son. See, it wasn't just the pharmacy. Like if my mom drove by Canal Square and she didn't like the way the weeds looked, she would send somebody down to Canal Square to go pick the weeds out of the bricks. And it was those kind of things that she would do. And she had no trouble at any moment saying, get up here and go up to so-and-so's house and help them out. You know, so, and, you know, also with the pharmacy, you have to realize there's times on Christmas Eve, Christmas, where customers forget to get their medication. You know, they get a hold of my mom and, you know, all of a sudden, you know, prescription gets filled and then, you know, one of us is dropping it off at someone's house. So I guess the sense of community and taking care of community is another big one that I took away.
As I watched you transform in your childhood from plaid uniforms and those gray, horrible pants with the plaid in the ugly green sweaters we had, and you transferred into playing guitar. Tell me about what you enjoyed about your music.
Well, actually, you know, it's funny. I recently kind of come to terms with what that all meant at that time, because I picked up the guitar when I was about 13. And again, back to that whole character building that my family has, I had to buy my own stuff. My mom was not going to pay for it. So I had to save up whatever money I could and buy whatever was available in the JCPenney catalog. But what happened is basically after about a year messing with the thing, I finally started getting somewhere, and it became an escape. There was a lot of stress at times and a lot of commotion growing up. And at least I identified that. And to me, it was a way of tuning out whatever was going on in the house and just kind of escaping. And the thought of escaping into a piece of music, well, also that, and also my studies and whatever sports I was playing. So that's really what it was. It was an escape, you know, and subsequently other things became an escape later on in life, of course.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of things that happen with the brain when we hear music. And
Right.
sometimes, I don't claim to be a clinical psychologist, but I did study psychology at SUNY Albany, and we learned about the triggers in the brain and the dopamine. When that's lacking, music can be very therapeutic. Do you have thoughts on that?
Sensual, if anything. I mean, what is it doing? It's appealing to who's ever, you know, spent any time listening to Dark Side of the Moon knows what I'm talking about. It is a very moving work of art. But, you know, a lot of music is like that too, depending on which way you want to go with it. I'm a diehard Led Zeppelin fan still to this day. But, you know, I appreciate all flavors of music that I come across, you know, and they all provide their own little thing. You know, you get into the jam band scene and it's really kind of like a very happy-go-lucky kind of thing. And, you know, it can really just alter your mood. That's what it is. It's a mood enhancer, you know?
Absolutely. And when I was little, I was given a guitar and a pick, and I just strung around on the guitar, but I had no idea how to play it. I knew I had to touch some buttons and tune it a little bit, but I had no idea. I didn't have instruction about playing a guitar. And much later on in life, I decided that I was going to sing instead of having an instrument. Can you tell us a little bit about what you learned when you started playing a guitar? Does it start with chords?
Well, I'm self-taught. It took a really long time. I started like any other teenager, learning Smoke on the Water and Iron Man and learning power chords. But what happened was about after a year of that, I figured out two Zeppelin songs. One of them I figured out by sight reading the music because I had some training for piano and also the trumpet. And so I was able to read music. And then another one I just kind of figured out by ear. And I just kind of, that was right there that was a dopamine hit. That was like, oh, sounds just like that song that I really like. Okay, this is my hobby. I'll be doing this every day. And anytime I walked in my room, even when I was doing homework, when I was waiting for, to go out with friends, the guitar was in my hands. I would wake up in the morning, shortly after getting ready and having breakfast, the guitar was in my hands. I got home from school, the guitar went right to my hands. I was doing homework at night, the guitar was on my lap. You know what I mean? And that's just the way kind of Ben was. And the good thing is I look back on it, it kind of taught me at an early age to multitask. As far as, that's what I currently do now as a software developer, is I have to do a lot of multitasking.
Absolutely. And you and I have a connection because we went to school together, and you have your own story, and there's plenty to dive into, but I'm going to ask this question. You can answer it any way you want, and then we're going to take a short commercial break and then dive deeper into some of the things that we have talked about, which is the topic of drugs and violence and abuse. Most people think about the whys that give us messages. And can you tell me about your definition of happiness and what fills that void?
Well, I mean, happiness to me is serenity. And, to be free of anxiety, to be free of depression, to be, secure in your family and your place, the place where you live. That's what happiness is. To me, it's not necessarily money, although, money in a capitalistic culture like ours does help, but it can also create a lot of problems as well. Happiness to me is really about living in the moment and not being caught up in your past, not worrying about the future, but focusing on the now and actually appreciating what you have here right now.
We have this drug epidemic. What are the go-to action items if I was talking to Joe Biden right now? What would you tell Joe Biden about what needs to be done, what needs to be happen, what actions, what tangible items, what 3 things what do we need in America right now? Telling Joe Biden.
Well, a lot of this stuff is starting to come about. About 20 years ago, I went into my first rehab, and it was a vastly different world than it is now. And I just got out of rehab, and I'll be going back in tomorrow because I've been having a little bit of trouble lately. But I can tell you one thing: the world is going to a harm reduction perspective, and I'm all about it. The thing of the matter is, there has been the current paradigm, and let's say this has been the paradigm for the last however many years, is give up everything, whatever it is, and and they have a 10% success rate. Well, that's not a success rate. That's a failure rate. I mean, if I brought home a 10 on a test, my parents would be none too happy. So right now with what's going on, that's one of the things is the harm reduction. I believe in safe havens, and I also believe in proper testing and education of substances. What's going on out there right now? This fentanyl is killing people. I mean, and they're putting it on whatever the hell they want. Not so much cannabis, I don't think, but surely when it comes to stuff like heroin and crack and cocaine, if you're doing those things, you can be pretty guaranteed that you've probably been taking in some fentanyl along the way. And the thing is people can just up and die on that.
Yeah, why don't you just drink a
So,
whole jug of bleach instead of doing a drug, right?
Well, because I don't
With
think
the
the bleach
fentanyl?
is going to get you high. No, I think
But
bleach
it's
is.
gonna have the
I don't know
same
if
consequence, right?
it is going to have the same consequence, but I do understand where you're getting at. But the thing is people aren't out there doing drugs simply because they're partying. If you're reaching for drugs like crack, coke, and heroin, it's because you've got something going on. You're in pain. You're sad. And a lot of people out there who are drug users, if you talk to them, a lot of them have conflicting mental issues. You would not believe the population of people with traumatic brain injury. A lot of them have the same freaking issues as each other. They have family court cases. They have legals. They're all this extra stuff, and yet they're expected to get out of this hole that they're in.
Yep.
And to me,
And you
it's
hit
just
that
like
nail
it
right
doesn't.
on the head with pain, because we're all in pain. We're all screwed up, and America is going 0 to 60 on not being able to deal with the problems. Hold that thought. When we come back, we're going to dive more deeper into Jason, his story, and the ability to deal with pain.
They can see.
Hello, my name is Maria Perez. I am from San Antonio, Texas. 34 years ago, I was a victim of human trafficking.
Hello, I'm Brian Shree from Texas. As a previous probation and parole officer who supervised the most violent and repeated sex offenders in Florida and in Texas, human trafficking continues to this day as one of the most heinous crimes of modern day society.
I'm Kimberly Trapani, all-consuming film.
Right now, traffics are robbing a staggering 24.9 million people of their freedom and basic human dignity. That's roughly 3 times the population of New York City.
Man holds in his mortal hands the power to abolish all forms of human poverty and all forms of human life.
This nation will rise up, and we as a people will get to the promised land.
Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for you are with me.
Give me serenity to deal with this life, like standing in a dark tunnel where is the light, like living in the bottom of a pit.
The bottom of the
It's
pit.
like living in the bottom of a pit.
The bottom of the pit.
I will never quit, I'll go the distance. Hard work pays off, you're on my witness. Like living in the bottom of a pit.
The bottom of the
It's
pit.
like living in the bottom of a pit.
The bottom of the pit.
We're back on the Now or Never show, and I am your host, Kimberly Trapani. And we are talking with my amazing, wonderful childhood friend, Jason. And I have really good memories of Jason as a child. He was always a good kid in Catholic schools with me. And he had a short redhead hairdo. And
It was a bowl cut. You can say it.
Yeah.
It was a bowl.
It wasn't a mullet or anything like that.
It was a
You
bowl
were
cut.
straight-laced.
Put a bowl of soup on.
So we're getting into Yeah, I wish I had those pictures, but I know someone out there does, right?
See some of them, but um, I don't have very many pictures of myself growing up. So who does? You know.
Yes, and we're getting into the conversation about how mental health, drugs, and homelessness are tied in together a little bit.
Yeah.
And I don't claim to be the end all be all. I don't judge people. I did make a film on addiction before, and it was kind of like a dissertation, and it showed in film festivals and things. So I'm a little bit passionate about the subject. I'm partial about the subject. And when it comes to my friends and the well-being of my friends, I don't wish anything bad on them. I wish health and happiness with wellness and hope. But do we have hope with this current situation with people that are using? Can you tell me about that a little bit? You touched
Well,
upon the pain.
you know, there's a number of things that play here, and I think really kind of depends on the community. You know, we're talking about two very, very different communities. And I don't know when the last time you've been through Lansingburg lately, but it's not good down there. It's not good at all. Um, you know, even though that's one of the places that I would go in order to get, it's nerve wracking going down there. But I also think that the police don't have the resources that they. Oh, wow.
There you are.
That's
All
all
right,
right.
that's better. So
Yeah.
you touched upon, and I heard you, but for our audience, having a job and having to deal with the scariness of recovery and addiction. You touched upon that. Can you repeat to me some of the things you were just telling me about Arbor Hill and Lansingburg? And I've
Well,
taught in those schools, so I understand.
well, I'll tell you something. I mean, I can definitely see in those kind of communities, there is some serious lack, like and complete neglect and disregard. I mean, my heart goes out to the children as in those communities. It's just you can show up there at like 2 o'clock on a Sunday and still be in. I was still afraid for my life. And you know, it's just there's such a vibe of hopelessness, you know, and that nothing's ever going to change. This is the way it is. I'll do what I have to do to get my shit for today, and I'll be good for the rest of the day. But like what people are doing, the unsanitary conditions that people are living in, I mean, it's just disgusting. And you know, for families to have to deal with this, you know, not only the people who are using, but what about the people who are not using and watching their neighborhoods be destroyed by some jackass who really doesn't give a shit about their community.
Again, I'm finding that I'm going to ask this question again and pose it a different way. When people use drugs, do they know they have a problem, or is there some conscious state going on in the
Well, I
brain? What is your thoughts on that?
think it depends on the individual. Like me, like if I'm out there smoking crack, it's not good. I know that. This is it's just not a good thing for me. It literally could screw up everything for me. If I go out and drink, that's even worse because I tend to black out and also make very, very poor choices. There are people out there who simply just do not care. Like they will just do whatever they need to do in order to get whatever they need to get. And they're happy for that day, and that's that. They don't see any light at the end of the tunnel. They have very little hope. And a lot of the people I've run into as of late, really, there's no notion of ever changing. The fact that I'm going into treatment tomorrow, like a lot of the people that I was running with, they were like, "Holy shit, you are?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah, I can't. If I want what I want out of life, I really need to adjust this issue." And I've tried to talk a couple of people into going with me, but there seems to be very much a notion of apathy. They could just care less. And what's going on is it's just really horrible. I mean, what women are doing out there to get the money for the drugs, and total just disregard and disrespect. Even the language that's used. Like, I mean, that's actually caught me because, I work for the state. If I use this language, I'd get fired immediately. And it's just the way people talk to each other. There's no unity in that group at all. Everyone's out for themselves. And, you can't leave your phone unattended in a given place. You can't, if anybody gets you your car, you better damn well watch what was there first and what's going to be there later. It's very much dog eat dog out there. So
what is a motivating factor for someone that might be struggling with substance abuse disorder to get help? What's a couple of motivating factors?
Tell you what it is for me. Mine is to reconnect with family. Unfortunately, this thing, without going too much into it, because I can't really speak too much onto it. The people I love the most in my life, I can't see right now. And that really is the motivating factor. That's been the motivating factor through all of this since it started back in October. But as I've talked to a lot of people, who have very similar situations to mine. Some people worse. Some people haven't seen their kids in years. And some people are content with that, and they don't want to bring themselves in front of their kids in the conditions that they're in. And, you try and talk some kind of sense with them, like, well, wouldn't that motivate you? And they're like, look, man, it ain't happening today. Seriously. And that's where I'm talking about the pain. The pain's not physical. Usually it's mental, it's emotional, it's any one of those kind of areas. And people are trying to treat their pain with whatever illicit substance they can. And that just makes it worse in the long run and makes it more painful to deal with. So that's what the motivating factor is for me. But a lot of people out there aren't necessarily like me. They've kind of, when you've got nothing to lose, why do anything at all? So I think some of the other things is that there definitely isn't adequate shelter for people. There isn't there isn't a really good way of funneling people into these kind of programs other than they get arrested. That's one of the things that bothers the hell out of me is I don't think people should be getting arrested for being sad. If you commit a crime, you rob somebody for your drugs or whatever, well, that's one thing. But, for possession, it just doesn't make sense. I mean, this is somebody who's probably going through some serious shit that you can't imagine. And they're just trying to get by through the day. I don't really know what the answer is as far as motivating people to get there, because really, what these people's lives suck. Like, they're not clean. Their hands are grimy and dirty, some of them. And the clothes haven't been washed, and they don't have a place to sleep. They're sleeping on some dealer's couch or whatever it might be. And that's not a safe place either. So if that doesn't motivate you to go get help, I really don't know what's gonna.
What I'm finding is poor people do not get into homeless shelters, and you have a shelter that has to meet criteria It's A, you have mental illness, B, substance abuse disorder, or C, alcoholism. Do you feel that there are many misdiagnoses in order to get those resources?
I don't know anything about those misdiagnoses. I really, right now, I'm kind of in a position where um, I only have to worry about me. However, I will say that is a very diverse strata of people out there that I've met. And you're exactly right. Mental health is a big one. It's just so huge. I mean, I know that kind of is that's part of my story as well. As a matter of fact, I think that the number of items is growing every day, but I'm looking to get it treated. We're also talking about a group of people who really don't care about treating their problem, other than
Right.
packing. Just getting for these people to get to like a treatment facility or to get to a shelter is a huge task. They're kind of limited to their 3-block radius in whatever area. You know.
What I've found in doing in dealing with the population and struggling with substance abuse disorder is, it's, for lack of a better way of putting it, it's a cluster. Do we know what has to happen, A, B, and C, to help somebody get clean? Or does it remain a 24-hour cluster to even get somebody in a hospital?
Well, I'll give you a quick story. I got a call from a friend of mine last week. I was sleeping. It was actually a text message I woke up to. It was like 1 in the morning. And he's like an alcoholic. He's physically addicted to alcohol. And he went to one of the local hospitals, and he blew a .28, and they put him back out on the street. Well, really? We can't get a place for this guy. There's no place where we can put him. And he wound up calling me, and I wound up running over some leftover pizza and a pack of cigarettes and dropping him off to a kind of a safe place. But he kind of slept out in the woods all night. So if you want to look at it through those lens, we have a long way to go. We have a real long way to go as far as I'm concerned.
According to the National Alliance to End Homelessness, regarding January 2022, the PIT count was 582,462 people that were experiencing homelessness in America. This amount is roughly 18 out of 10,000 people. Thoughts, Jason?
I'm not really sure I caught everything you just said. I'm sorry. You
Sure.
kind of threw some numbers at me.
Yeah, 18 out of 10,000 people are homeless.
Yeah,
That's a 582,000 people experiencing homelessness in
well,
America.
I think you
And
need to
that
look at
is,
where the homelessness is. One of the things, what's going on out west, and these are all pie in the sky ideas that I probably stood for at one point or another about legalizing all drugs. It seems to be having the adverse effect out there, and things just seem to be getting worse. So that's. But I definitely think making sure people have the basics like food, clothing, and shelter. I think that's really, you need that first of all.
hi, Jason. Yep. Hello. Okay, I'm going to put it on speaker and just interview you via radio. Okay, hold on. All right, so we are back on air, and I have Jason via audio phone, and he's kind enough to work with me on talking about drug addiction and homelessness and a little bit about mental illness. Welcome, Jason.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And lovely seeing you after all of these years. And as you know, I've been working as a catalyst to try to encourage recovery from addiction because it hit home for me. And can you tell me a little bit about your thoughts on how it impacts family members to have to deal with addiction?
Well, I think you're probably better off asking my family members, but I can tell you this: there's no doubt that it becomes the elephant in the room, and it does. I mean, it does nothing to tighten a relationship. And one thing I can tell you about my experience with addiction is that the further you get into it, the more of your character flaws that developed. And these are like dishonesty, inconsideration, self-centeredness, selfishness. And basically, this is the way I became an asshole, for lack of a better term. The way the 12 steps seem to be designed to me, it's to help an asshole person when they get to that point. So, I'm sorry for the language being coarse, but I'm just going to be frank with you. So really, that's what really happens is you have this one member or multiple members who are using, and they basically are just not thinking of anyone else except themselves. And subsequently, everyone else is going to suffer. And then on top of which, the people who aren't using in the family they're going to form their own emotions. They're going to get frustrated. It's just, there is no success story of, the person that went out there, did a bunch of hard drugs, and everything was just fine. There isn't, that story doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm. You're my friend, Jason, and you know that I would never want anything bad to happen to you. What kind of support would you need when you're entering? You mentioned you're going into a situation where you're going to be hospitalized. What do family members need to do for you?
The thing is, that's a really, really tough thing, and it's tough for me to speak on, but I can say this much. They have to kind of be stern in where they're at. I know my family in particular definitely employed the tough love technique, which does work to a certain degree. However, there is a breaking point with that to where, I have become so overwhelmed with not only having to work on my recovery, but everything else that's going on in my life. Not to say I don't have a hand in it, but, I actually needed real help at one point. And I'm also finding out more about myself that there's a lot more instability than I originally thought. So I think what the thing is just be mindful of what you're saying to them. There's certain situations where you shouldn't be giving ultimatums to family members. And I would say that that's one of them, especially when that family member is going through an extremely tough time. That doesn't help. That's going to force them to, in my case, in my opinion, that would send me right back out to the street, be like, fuck this, I'm out of here. Now that's not right. That's not good behavior. That's definitely selfish thinking and bad thinking. But you got to remember, when people are in the throes of it all, they're not really thinking about other people's feelings. They're thinking about where they're going to be staying that night. They're going to be thinking about their next meal. They're going to be thinking about their next fix. I mean, there's a lot of things that they're going to be thinking about. But as far as how you can support them, patient, kindness, be a good ear, be mindful of what you're actually saying to that person, because that person is struggling, and by the time that they're talking to you, they've probably been let down about 40 times on one specific effort, and they have about 40 more until they actually can get, into that program, or that particular case resolved in court, or whatever it might be. And it does take time. This ain't gonna it doesn't happen overnight. It's hard. I was doing great when I first came out of rehab, and I was doing fantastic. Some things went down that just was a mix of me and whatever else. And, lo and behold, I found myself, not only back to square one, but minus. So, definitely be there for them, but also realize when you are now harping on them and giving them something that they're not going to listen to,
What overwhelms you, Jason?
Oh my God. I got to be careful about this one, because I have some cases out there where if I give a certain answer, I actually I have gotten overwhelmed very easily in the past. And like work, I've always been taught to take seriously. So if there's a deadline that's not being met, and me is what overwhelms me. I don't stop, and I wasn't stopping and thinking and, taking the deep breaths. I didn't even have the tools to deal and manage my emotions correctly. So as far as I'm concerned, for the last 49 years, my emotions just were not being managed correctly by myself. But it ultimately, in short, it's me that overwhelms me, because I am the one who is letting my fear of the future, or my holding on to the past, ruin my now.
What tools do you feel need to be improved in the system to help addiction and homelessness? What is lacking? What resources do people that don't have a home, or have a substance abuse disorder problem, or have alcoholism issues? What resources, what do they need when they want help within 24 hours? What are the tangible items? What needs to be done?
In New York State, we're kind of actually very fortunate. My understanding is you have to usually go to detox first, for a lot of people, especially if it's something like alcohol or heroin, or the benzos. They are things that people just need to detox off of before they can even enter a 28-day rehab. And, it doesn't really stop there. I know this last time out, I was in treatment for something like 67 days. I'm not really sure what this next stint's going to be like, whether it's going to be more or less. I'll have to work with the staff. But, one of the things, I'll tell you this much, what they've told me is that if you want to get past this problem, you need 3 things. And that's honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness. And, a lot of people coming in off the street from using, they definitely don't have a lot of honesty, because they need to lie as a survival tactic, but those are generally the 3 things that an individual needs to get past them.
And as far as the police department, we talked about earlier about criminalization of brain disorders, of people struggling with substance abuse disorder. What is lacking? Why is this brain disorder, which is labeled a disease in New York State as a disease, treated so criminally? And what needs to be improved there?
Yeah, well, I think that is the problem. I've oftentimes said that, people shouldn't be going to jail because they're sad. because they have trauma, in their life, and because they are going through some kind of emotional pain. Generally, if people are reaching out to substances, it's because they didn't learn the right way to deal with trauma in their life. I know that seems to be the case with me. I just kind of, I didn't necessarily learn to deal with it. The other end of it could be, on my end, is mental health, just to give you that example. But, their life needs to kind of get bad enough. You hear this a lot in the rooms. And when I say the rooms, like the AA and the NA rooms, if life hasn't got bad enough yet, you're going to end up going back out regardless of what you throw at it. I mean, yes, it is a disorder. It is a disease. I sit here telling you this knowing full well, every day I got to watch it. Every freaking day. The AA and the NA programs work if you work it. They certainly do. Those are proven techniques. Mm-hmm. Not everybody wants to do that. Okay, it is a lot of effort. It's a lot of work. But those are definitely proven organizations that help people.
And the thing is, we're getting so far gone with what's going on in America right now. There's so many problems. There's 58 million people struggling with mental health issues. We can't even get a government together to have a streamlined process to get people back to work. We're dealing with our problems with not necessarily drugs being a weakness, but a Band-Aid to cope with something that is so wrong in the brain. What are your thoughts on that? What's lacking in the brain to try to get away from something so gripping that it's killing 70,000 people a year?
Well, basically, people are, in my experience, are resistant to change. People don't like change at all. I know that when my family was trying to get me into treatment, I knew I had a drinking problem. I knew I had a substance abuse problem. Mm-hmm. I didn't want to change. I didn't. But what it's kind of come to terms with me is that there are certain people. There are certain. Without going too much into it, there are certain people in my life that I can't say right now, and that's really my motivating factor for working on this problem. But as I've gotten cleaner and cleaner and cleaner, and that's what it is. It's going to take multiple attempts for some people. I realize each time around, like, yep, this is exactly why you shouldn't be doing this shit. Because, there's so many consequences for the various substances that are out there, and they all have their own little bit. Alcohol, I tend to lose myself completely and become a completely different person and don't even know what the hell I did. So that's very dangerous on one level. But other substances, it could be something completely different. I'm putting myself in a risky situation to cop, or, I'm putting a risky situation to use. Really, what it's come down to for me is I have to sit there and realize what's the most important thing to me. And, it's 8 and 4 years old.
Yes. And the situation is this. We have environmental factors, we have brain disorders, we have triggers. Do you blame your childhood? Do you blame your family for what you struggle with from day to day?
No, I don't blame my family. I think a lot of what I may have said in the past has come across that way. I've also kind of going through a lot of changes. This is the most I've been sober since I was 15. So there was I did go through a thing where I was pissed and I was also cornered. And I felt like I was being attacked. And honestly, this actually probably could be a mental disorder, which is something I'm hoping to work on and address this next time around in rehab. Because I wound up saying and doing a bunch of things that really hurt a lot of people, and the people that were trying to help me. And I also was not doing what I should have been doing in dealing with the pain I was feeling.
Yeah. And it's so hard because going back to the fact that, do you know you have a problem? Well, are you sucked under from the high and the amazingness? Because I've heard that being high is better than an orgasm. It feels so good and feels so euphoric that why would you want to lose that high? Is that accurate, Jason?
Well, not only that, I mean, it's even better having an orgasm while you're high. But to be honest with you, but then again, you're talking about pleasure versus real, actual love and real, genuine love. And the thing is I think there certainly is a personality type that I share in that escapes to pleasure. I definitely do. I talked about earlier about how I used to escape to playing guitar. I would escape in my schoolwork or whatever when I was younger. Then alcohol and drugs became the escape, and it almost kind of became one of those things of, okay, well, what happens when we add this to it, and what happens if we involve this person? You know what I mean? And again, those are all kind of, I would almost say, looking at it now, sophomoric thoughts, but those are realities and people are pursuing them, I know for me, too, one of the things I kind of fought with was, and this is just for me being a spoiled brat or a king baby, is, why is it, so-and-so can have a couple drinks, but I can't. I'm over that now. See, because when I have more than a few drinks, everyone's life is at danger around me. It doesn't mean I can't have a drink and moderate. However, it can't go past like one or two. That's it. And I have to be supervised if I was to have one, but I would just assume at this point not have one.
What's going to motivate you? And I hate asking that question because it sounds so judgmental, but we got to help this population who is struggling and may feel guilty about their struggles because they just can't stop snorting coke. They can't stop shooting syringes in their arm. They can't stop put down the drink.
They do put it down for a while, but then what happens is they go to family court, and family court has told them to jump to certain levels about 9 different freaking times, and they jump to every one of them, and then the family's like, well, we're gonna have to wait even more. And it's just like, it's so freaking frustrating. Personally, I'm not saying family court is bad. I'm not. I think that they can do some good things. However, a lot of people that I talk to about family court, their experience is that family court doesn't put families back.
Yeah, they break them up, and it is corrupt, Jason. It is. I can tell you that.
I'm not ready to make that characterization. I don't know. I know in my own experience, I feel as though I'm getting railroaded. I'm feeling that the whole reason why I'm there is based on a lie. But that's the other thing. When somebody anybody can file a petition in family court, and there's no fact checking on it. It's not at all. There's no need for evidence. However, this is what I have to deal with. And right now, in my own situation, if I want things to go well, and in whatever court I'm in, I gotta show everybody that I'm freaking serious, and I am freaking serious, because love is really the most powerful motivator in the world, and I have a lot of it.
Yeah. It breaks my heart that, knowing what I know about you, being such a kind, wonderful, creative, amazing person and musician, and how much music you can create, and how I could get you to a point where you have an amazing music career and you could play the guitar forever and ever and play concerts all around the world and be platinum and things. This breaks my heart that you struggle so much. Where is the pain coming from?
I can't really specifically comment on that.
Okay.
I know where dude, I'll tell you something right now. At least 10 to 12 times a day, I just break out crying. And I know the reason. I can't talk about the reason.
Okay.
Due to some existing orders that are out there. And, people that know my situation know exactly what it is. And anybody who knows me knows exactly what it is. I'm kind of surprised by the way, by some of the attacks by some of my family. And they've really kind of gamed the system to their advantage. Mm-hmm. And it really kind of breaks my heart, because I just love people. I don't hate anybody.
I know you do, Jason. You're a good person. You have a heart of gold, and I get that, and I'm your friend. How can we help you? Are we supposed to stay away in our little corners? Do we coddle? What is your advice?
The thing is I don't really know. I think it's really up to me. It's really, I'm the one that has to freaking straighten my fucking act out, but the thing is, when that pain comes, when you're crying 10 freaking times a day, and I'm talking about, like, I can't even talk to my boss. I can't even talk to my coworkers without breaking up when they ask me how things are.
Because you're honest, you can't lie about things that are broken and put on your game face like a poker face, like it's like not okay. It's okay to be not okay. It's okay.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's no place where I want to live, and I'm trying to get to a point where I can let go of it all. But it's really, really hard with this one. Like, I'll tell you something, man. If it was anybody else, if the people involved was anybody else, I would think nothing of it. But for the unit that is, it just really has ripped the heart right out of my fucking chest. And I mean, honestly, I tried to commit suicide back in October, and the thought recently crossed my mind, well, geez, I wish I was successful. Now, listen, I'm not going to go hurt myself. I'm not going to go hurt anybody else. But the onslaught of items that have been thrown at me, and the more lawyer fees, and the more court dates, and the whole deal of it, and the unreasonableness, it's really, really, it's made it trying. And I'm kind of always treading water. I'm trying always to get to the point. So really, what I'm doing now, part of me going into treatment is so I can actually fix my shit. Because right now, I'm getting creamed. Getting creamed.
You're getting tough love, and you don't deserve to be kicked while you're down. And so we're trying to get to the core and the basics to help you and help people in your situation. What the heck can we do to help the situation so you live, so you're not suicidal, so that you have your life back together? It breaks my heart, Jason.
You kind of kind of brought up a really good point about not kicking people while they're down. Okay, the way I actually, first of all, think the way we deal with all this needs to be modernized. This is an archaic system that takes people out of work from their work day. They eventually call in a lot. They eventually lose their job, and they can't get back on their feet. From an employer standpoint, you can't hire somebody with a 5-year gap, because they were in prison. Where there are programs for that, but in my personal situation is I was served with a number of items, and as a result of those items, I was homeless. I worked to get those items resolved. My family, certain members of my family started talking about my situation and what they believed my situation was, and it made it to the court. So, whether or not it's true or not, and it doesn't affect their fucking life anymore. It affects mine. I'm the one who has to fucking deal with it. You know what I mean? But they will just fucking sit there and talk to the wrong fucking person in my family and not give a flying fuck about what's going in my life and how it's going to affect me. Maybe they should shut their fucking mouth is really what it is. Some of them. Others, and I'll give you a perfect person that, to give you an example, is my brother John. Has been fucking awesome through this whole thing.
He is awesome. He's a good guy.
And he really is. And he has had to take shit from me because I've been backed into a corner where I've had to make outrageous claims on Facebook to get attention. Because I felt as though nobody was listening. But John has really kind of been there through. The guy is one of the busiest guys I know, and he sat there for 3 hours in St. Peter's emergency room one day. When I was there because of an issue I was having. If that doesn't tell you what a good guy is, I don't know what will. But I've had other family members who said that they wouldn't say anything to anybody, run back and say something to somebody, and then I get sideswiped in a given court, and now my life is fucked even more, and I'm in further pain. And guess what I'm going to do when I'm in further pain?
Yeah.
Do you think it's just up and go to a fucking meeting? No, it's not. So you're not fucking helping.
Jason, we love you. And we're here for you.
And I appreciate it. And, I'm sorry for getting so upset, but...
No, it's okay.
It's frustrating. And if you knew how it all freaking started, it's fucking almost comical. And honestly, I'm going to tell you this much. I am completely confident that the truth will come out in the end. And that justice will be served. But, I have to take the right steps and make sure that my side of the street is clean. And I'm going into rehab tomorrow in order to make sure that that's the case.
Jason, we love you and we're praying for you. And hold on to this. There are people out there that actually do care about you. They just don't know how to help you. They don't know what's too much or is not enough. So what would you tell people, your friends, your family that actually care? What do you need?
I will tell you this. There has been a lot of situations where I've talked to friends and family members, and they're like, that's bullshit. The thing is, when somebody's talking to you about abuse in their life and, shit that happened to you, and you contradict that, do you know how hard it was for that person to freaking say something? To put themselves out there? Just listen and love them and be patient, and don't tell them that they're full of shit. That just pisses the person off, and certainly doesn't help. That's one thing that I definitely have told people as far as that. There have also been a lot of friends who have come to me and they've said, hey man, given the situation you're in, you shouldn't be posting this on Facebook. You know what? That's really good advice. And I've actually listened to that because that actually really does hurt me. But I would say for people in this situation, you need to love, support, listen, Okay? And be careful with your judgments and what you say back to that person, because you have no fucking idea what the fuck they're going through. Unless you've been homeless, unless you've, been at the end of the crack stem, unless you've, been in those situations, you have no fucking idea. You really don't. And me putting into words, I can't. I can say, though, that it is a huge problem, and we do need to look at different creative ways to addressing the issues than the ways that we've been doing in the past that just simply aren't working.
If you could do me a favor while you're in the hospital and just write down some items that I can take to the legislators and the president, who he hears from me often, of things that, tangible items of things in the system that need to change, that would be awesome.
Right now, like the last place I went, when I called the place, I asked them, it was really important that they had a gym. And I'm like, okay, that's great. Oh, you got a gym. But when I get there, they're like, yeah, well, you may get to use the gym today. And if you do get to use it, it's like for an hour. It's just like, as far as the case of like where I go, it's such a mixed population of people that have been incarcerated and people who are there, just trying to get help. You have a clashing of cultures right there as well.
Yeah, and I've heard people use in rehabs.
They do. And the things that they are using are freaking dangerous. K2 and spiced. You got to be out of your fucking mind to use that shit. Even I said that. Who wants to smoke incense? With some kind of chemical on it. So they do. People do. But they also get caught. They also get thrown back in jail. So that happens as well.
You have my number. You can reach out to me anytime you want. Any thoughts that you have. I would urge you to say, and again, we're not judging you. My sister died. She was an attorney in New York State, and her husband told me it wasn't enough that she died. It's not going to be a motivating factor to stop drugs. So I understand wholeheartedly, and I want to help addicts, not hinder them. But
the kind of pain that people are in is that they don't want to live. So, the aversion of dying isn't really, it's not really a deterrent. And honestly, for some of them, if you're homeless, how much of a deterrent is going to jail? So that's what you're dealing with. And that's what I think we need to do, is realize what the freak we're dealing with. A sense of apathy and a sense of hopelessness that is beyond hopeless. And it's kind of weird. The person needs to get time underneath their belt in order to even realize that life is even worth living. There's a lot of them out there don't believe that.
Are you going to promise me you're going to come back on the show after you get out?
I can do it while I'm in there. Yeah, I wouldn't mind doing that too. But yeah, absolutely. I can do that. I hope that I'm, but the thing is, am I going to promise you that I'll be sober? I can't. I can't. I would love to. Hopefully there will come a day where I don't even fucking think about it, and life will be grand.
Are you safe right now?
I also don't think, after functioning the way I have for 50 years, should prevent me from seeing the people I love at all. And that's what I take issue with.
I understand that, Jason, wholeheartedly, and my heart breaks for you in a million pieces for what you're going through. I don't wish pain on you. I have unconditional support for you, and I know, how can we help the community with addiction? I heard understanding and patience.
The thing is, I will say, if you see something, start saying something, especially if you think that there's, some of the harder drugs that are involved. You know what I mean? It's these harder drugs that are really decaying our community. No doubt about it. I mean, that's just, the math is so easy. The cause and effect is so easy to see. I mean, if you like, just the way, like, even the nature of like crack, this drug requires you to have this stem. The amount of work that goes into maintaining this stem is ridiculous. And if you don't maintain it right, it'll get you sick. I mean, and the same thing goes with dope. Dope carries a similar thing with shooting and everything. So if you see somebody who you think is dealing, or you see some action that's going on, you gotta say something, man. And I say this knowing full well that I might get caught up in the mix of this someday. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna lie. You know, I hope not. But I will say this as well. When it comes to the people I love, I don't bring poison around them. Period. The end.
Trust in the Lord. Don't lean on your own understanding, and your path will be straight. And I have so much compassion for you, Jason. Anything else you want to tell our audience before we wrap?
Yeah, there is something I want to tell your audience. One word I hate out there is the term crackhead, and it might as well be junkie, or it could be, lush, or any of the other terms that are used to inappropriately describe somebody who has a substance abuse problem. If someone has a substance abuse problem to that level, they have more than the substance abuse problem. They have a lot of pain in their life. Pain that they have not dealt with yet, or that they've been trying to deal with just the wrong way. It does not make them a bad person. Matter of fact, most of those people out there you see on the street that you call a crackhead are actually some of the nicest people you would ever meet. They've just kind of falling on hard times and through some bad circumstances. Some people, not through circumstances of their own. One of the things that I'm always confounded about is the number of traumatic brain injuries who are crossover into substance abuse. It's just amazing. I mean, I went to rehab. I was like, yeah, I'm a traumatic brain injury. I'm a traumatic brain injury. I'm a traumatic brain injury. It was like the whole freaking room with traumatic brain injury. I'm like, well, geez, do you think maybe there might be a correlation? The other thing is poverty. And, we really need to do more for the poor as a whole in this country. The poor is really the people that need to be protected and saved and taken care of. That's all I got, hon.
Big hugs to you. And
thank you.
You know that I am here supporting you, and I will say a prayer every single day for you until I hear from you. And it's going to be heart-wrenching for me to not know that what's going on, but we got to trust as people that you'll be okay, and other people in your situation are going to be okay. In my opinion, you have to want to is the stupidest thing I've ever heard out of a legislator's mouth in my life. But
of course they want to. I want to. There's no doubt I want to. But you want to know something? When I'm sitting there crying and bawling my eyes out, and I can't freaking shut it off, what the fuck kind of kick in the nuts is that? And it really is. I mean, there's more to it than that. What I'm going through is fucking torture. There is no fucking doubt about that. I mean, and I can't believe some of my members of my family have allowed it to go on for as long as they have. But I'm not them, and that's just fine. I wish I could share more details, but honestly, I really can't. I'll be surprised if I don't end up in jail tomorrow anyway. More than likely, I probably will be, because that's the way certain members have been.
Big hugs to you, Jason. And again, I wish you well in your recovery and your wellness and your health. And I will be saying prayers for you every single day. This is so gripping to someone's brain that we have to be kind and loving and hopeful.
That's, and that's a thought I would like to leave people off with is this, and this is it, is I really think we all need to just work on ourselves. And if we just work on ourselves, well, then maybe we'll start being nice to each other, because I've been around, and let me tell you something. A lot of you people out there aren't nice to each other at all. And basically, that's not cool, dude. That's really not cool. I mean, you shouldn't be judging people on their appearance. You shouldn't be judging somebody because they're asking for change. You shouldn't be judging somebody because they're driving a BMW. It doesn't fucking matter. It's love. Be kind to each other. That's it. And be nice to each other.
Thank you. And I appreciate your time today. I'm very hopeful for you, Jason. And to our audience, look in the mirror. I've been telling people for years, be kind. You never know what people are going through. We have nobody in humanity in America or any other country that is perfect. So look at yourselves. Be safe. And thank you, Jason.
Thank you.